Hello, good evening, and a very warm welcome to A Date with a Dinner Set, programme 313 here on July the 19th. As you can see, we are a recorded programme. I cannot be with you this evening, so I'm very sorry about that. But as always, in these circumstances when I can't be with you live, we do the next best thing, which is to record live, warts and all, and try and present the same sort of programme that you have become used to over the past 313 programmes. Of course, the most important aspect of this is you, the listener, especially those of you who listen live and indeed join in our chat room. So sorry that when we are recorded, that facility is not available, but I will be reading the chat back and hope you are enjoying the programme. So that was a long heat wave, wasn't it? And more to come, apparently. I mean, it's not exactly cold now, is it? But summer marches on. The World Cup is done and dusted, but we are told of another heat wave to come towards the end of July and again in August. So the sun shineth on, so to speak. So here we are on programme 313, and we are in the third programme of our tribute to the Great American Songbook, as we celebrate with America 250 years of independence. So throughout July, we are doing our musical tribute by everything we are playing on the programme in the 4 Sundays in July is dedicated to extracts from the Great American Songbook, that loose collection of some 1,000 amazing songs. As I've been telling you the past few weeks, it has been hard to whittle it down to just 24, but I've tried to choose ones which I know, which is always helpful, isn't it? Which I think you will know, and which form a very important part of the history of American song, be it through Broadway musical, Hollywood films, or indeed standalone jazz standards. And I've also used amongst my criteria the fact whether we've had them recently. So all of the songs that you hear in these 4 programmes we haven't had for at least 10 months. We do like to have a little bit of variety. As you can see, we are still decorated, and as you can see, we still haven't got the lights really to shine red, white and blue. They are red, white and blue, and occasionally you can see them twinkling those colours in the reflections on the picture behind me and indeed the piano. But know that we are doing our bit, as indeed we are in yet another American tie, a Manhattan landscape for you this evening. So our opening march, yes indeed, as you know, I've been doing a different march by John Philip Sousa each week to start our show, because he was a very important part of the whole history of American music, if you like, with his some 120 military marches. And that very famous one that started this evening's programme was the Washington Post March, and it was commissioned by the new editor of the Washington Post in 1889. And President Harrison was there when it was first performed outside the Smithsonian Museum. And it's one of his most famous marches. In fact, it's that military march that started the whole European 2-step military march trend. And it always brings a smile, that sort of rousing quality that a good old Sousa march has, which is why he was given the title, the honorary title of the March King. So, programme 313, we are recorded, and in our third programme of songs from the Great American Songbook, everything this evening I've decided to make by the fantastic composer Richard Rodgers, who over at least 50 years contributed so much to American musical song through his various partnerships and indeed as a standalone composer. And he wrote some 940 songs and I believe 43 musicals. So it's quite an achievement, a huge figure within the Great American Songbook tradition. So looking down my list, you will recognise once again all of these beautiful songs by the amazing Richard Rodgers. Even though we are recorded, please do chat along in your friendly way to each other, and I look forward to reading back your chat on my return. Thank you so much in advance, and do enjoy this evening's programme. as I know you will have been typing in the chat. That was, of course, Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered, which dates from 1940. And it was composed by Richard Rodgers for the musical Pal Joey. And there you'll have a poster of the film version of Pal Joey with Frank Sinatra and Rita Hayworth. And that song, Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered, was during Richard Rodgers' long and sometimes acrimonious working relationship with the lyricist Lawrence Hart. And it's one of their most famous songs together. It's an absolutely beautiful song, I think. The way that the yearning, aching melody combines with the wonderful lyric by Lawrence Hart, which you may or may not remember, begins, I'm wild again, beguiled again, a simpering, whimpering child again, which I think is a fantastic set of words to start a song. Those nested lyrics, and rather like Cole Porter, very good at doing internested lyrics. That is a very memorable line from a very memorable song from 1940, our opening one this evening, Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered by Rodgers and Hart. And I thought, and once again, I'd show you some of the people that I associate as amazing interpreters of songs from the Great American Songbook. And they're not in any particular order, but Ella Fitzgerald, of course, who did many albums of Great American Songbook. Nat King Cole, a unique voice there. Another unique voice, Mr. Frank Sinatra, of course. And then Sarah Vaughan. All of these people, you can just imagine the wonderful sounds they make. Bing Crosby, Tony Bennett, yeah, I mean, in a career spanning some 70 years, an amazing singer. Ringo Starr, that might surprise you, but in the 1970s he did an album of the Great American Songbook, as indeed did Rod Stewart do a few albums when he was a little older than in that picture. And Lady Gaga also fairly recently has done her albums. It's such an amazing collection of eclectic songs, famous songs, beautiful songs, that you can see why people like to cover them, both famously and infamously, here as on A Date with a Dinner Set. So that was our opening one this evening. As I've said before, we are recorded tonight, and everything we are doing is by the wonderful composer Richard Rodgers. Do enjoy our next very famous song. And once again, of course, you will have typed in that was the wonderful song Edelweiss from a 1959 musical, The Sound of Music by Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. I am, of course, there showing you one of the film caps from the 1965 version starring Julie Andrews, which was as famous as the musical. And that beautiful song, Edelweiss, of course, famously sung by Captain Von Trapp as preparing to leave his beloved Austria. That was the sort of purpose of that song, to sing about the beauties of that rather wonderful white alpine flower with its purity and its innocence and its beauty. And I think that's probably one of the best songs that Rodgers and Hammerstein, where are they? There they are. They both look a bit grumpy there, don't they? I think they're in different locations, grumpy, but yeah. Oh, interestingly, that was the very last song they composed together, because Oscar Hammerstein was very sick by then, and he died just a few months later, actually. So Edelweiss was the very last lyric he worked on and the very last song they worked on together. So it has, a bit of a poignancy when you think of it like that as well. So in the musical version of Sound of Music, the first person to star in Broadway on that was Mary Martin, the very famous singer and actress Mary Martin, who, as many of you will know, Mary Martin had a very famous son in Larry Hagman, as in J.R. Ewing from Dallas. Although maybe you don't know that, but it's just one of those fascinating little factoids that one carries around. So that was our second one this evening. Just a reminder, as always, if you like what you see and you hear on A Date with a Dinner Set, then do please press the thumbs up button, and it does help other people to find our merry little channel. So on we go with the next song from the Great American Songbook, and indeed the Richard Rodgers Songbook, this evening on programme 313 of A Date with a Dinner Set. Do enjoy. The sound from a chat room is deafening, even though I'm doing this recorded, because I know you all know these very famous songs that we are playing this evening. Once again, we have across the month tried to pick ones which are very famous examples from the Great American Songbook, and indeed this evening's programme dedicated to Richard Rodgers as well. That one, of course, you've typed it in, Getting to Know You, from The King and I. And that musical comes from 1951. And one of the interesting things that I discovered about The King and I was Richard Rodgers was not the first composer that was approached to write the music for that musical. Cole Porter was the first one to be asked to write that music. But he turned it down, actually. I think he was still riding high on the success of Kiss Me Kate or something. I don't know why he turned it down. I might try and delve more into that. It's quite interesting, I think, that he turned it down. But on the other hand, it became yet another hit for Rodgers and Hammerstein, The King and I. There's a slightly happier picture of the couple. What a partnership, and indeed the partnership of Richard Rodgers and Lawrence Hart, a very successful partnership that has left us so many wonderful musicals, so many memorable and wonderful songs as well. So from 1951, Getting to Know You, that was our next one. Particularly because this is recorded, I'll press this button which says, if you've happened upon this and you don't know what it is, do please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, Gigi the Piano Man. And as always, do please leave comments, share it on, and your thumbs up are much appreciated. On we go. So that song goes back quite a long way to 1925. And it comes from the musical The Garrick Gaieties, which was put on to raise money for some new theatre curtains at the Garrick Theatre. And as you can see on that poster I have there, this was part of the partnership between Richard Rodgers and Lorenz Hart. I just love that photo of them because Lorenz Hart just looks like the maitre d' in a restaurant, pointing out the delicacies to Richard Rodgers on the menu. And so Manhattan is the title of that song, and a very famous Richard Rodgers song, a very famous song, a very beautiful song again. And the fact that it is now 101 years old, you will see from the little video clips I showed you of New York and Manhattan that some of them were quite modern. That was no accident, really, because as the decades went on from its original performance of Manhattan, in fact, the lyrics did get updated, and very famously in 1955, in the Ella Fitzgerald version of Manhattan, she updates the show that was quoted in the original lyrics to "And My Fair Lady is a terrific show," they say. And everyone puts their own spin on these lyrics, so they stay alive in that way, and I think that's rather nice that music can be dynamic in that way. So where's my little... There it is. If you, in the first 2 weeks, have been watching the trailers, you will have been seeing these slides. But just to summarise, we're celebrating America 250 with 4 programmes during July 26, dedicated to the Great American Songbook. All music that forms part of the Great American Songbook is what we are featuring. And that is not just a single collection, but a loose canon of some 1,000 songs. So across these 4 programmes, you've been able to enjoy my covers of jazz standards, Broadway songs, Hollywood, and many more. And just some of the composers that famously wrote songs for the Great American Songbook: Gershwin, Porter, Berlin, Jerome Kern, Harold Arland, Kurt Weill. The list just goes on and on, Stephen Sondheim. And as I've said before, many people have sort of tried updating it. Really, it is a collection of songs roughly from 1920 through to the late 1960s, but so many more worthy examples. And because we're celebrating Richard Rodgers this evening, by way of an example of traditions carrying on, Richard Rodgers' grandson is the Broadway composer Adam Guettel, who composed A Light in the Piazza, amongst other musicals. So the whole tradition is being carried on. And I think, as I think I said on the first programme, there's an equal argument for adding about 1,000 of Stephen Sondheim's amazing songs to the Great American Songbook. I hope you are enjoying these collections and these selections. So something interesting as I've been playing, I said this was recorded live, warts and all. Something interesting I've been noticing, the first 4 songs, all by Richard Rodgers, have all been in B flat. And I hadn't really thought about that until about the 3rd song. And that's when I realised the 4th one is also written in B flat as well. The next one isn't, but it could be, if that makes any sense. To enjoy. So again, you will have been typing it in. That was People Will Say We're in Love, from their very first musical collaboration, Rodgers and Hammerstein, that is Oklahoma, a country farm setting. 1943 was the date of that. Very beautiful song, People Will Say We're in Love, where the couple, sort of say to each other they must be a bit more discreet in their obvious infatuation for each other. So from Oklahoma, that was People Will Say We're in Love. And there we go. There's another picture of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. Oscar Hammerstein, incidentally, was a very tall man. I believe he was 6'3", 6'4". They look happy there, don't they? We like that. You may have been wondering why this objet is on the piano this evening on program 313. It's it's a little ice cream decoration. A couple of weeks ago, our friend from Portugal who was watching said that they fancied, rather than apple turnover, they wanted an ice cream. Well, you're in luck. Here is your ice cream. And guess what? Today, the 19th of July, that is to say the third Sunday in July, is in America National Ice Cream Day. And look at that lovely trio of gooey cold delights. Do we prefer them in a cone, be it a traditional stale one from the ice cream van, or a waffle one like that, or do we prefer it in a bowl? The sort of bowl I mean, the old school British glass bowls, or stainless steel bowls with a little ice globules down the side of them. Those of us of a certain age will remember chasing the last bits of ice cream round one of those dishes. But that's what it is today, National Ice Cream Day. And apparently President Jefferson had a very famous recipe for vanilla ice cream, which was the first and oldest American recipe for ice cream. It's a tradition, of course, going back many, many hundreds of years throughout various cultures. I'll put this down before it melts in my hand. Just like that. So we have one more song on our third program of the Great American Songbook, and it's a very famous one to finish, a very apt one with which to finish our show this evening. And we'll play it, and then we, of course, will say our goodnight in the usual way. I hope you will really enjoy it. Of course, from the 1945, their second musical together, Rodgers and Hammerstein, Carousel. Very moving song from a very poignant and moving part in a very, very, very long show. A great show, though. You'll Never Walk Alone, which, of course, has since been adopted as a football anthem everywhere, especially in Liverpool. There they are, one more picture of Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein. Oscar looking very thoughtful there, wondering whether he likes whatever it is that Richard Rodgers has just been playing. So look, that was our third programme of the Great American Songbook, programme 313 of A Date with Vidinacet here on July the 19th. I'm sorry we have been recorded in a live situation, but I hope you have really enjoyed 6 wonderful, actually they've all been ballads really, haven't they? Ballads by the great Richard Rodgers, such a huge part of the Great American Songbook story. So we have one more week to go of this month-long musical celebration of America 250. So when I see you next week on July the 26th, we will be back well and truly live, and I look forward to the great pleasure of both playing for you then and chatting with you in the chat room. Watch out, there is apparently another heat wave on the way as summer grinds on. Do enjoy yourselves, and thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to leave a comment. All the very best, and good night.